Mario Kart 8!
What is up, my Squirtleites? It is I, your king, welcoming you to a brand new Let's Play. One that I have both been excited for and dreading for quite some time. Years and years ago, I had made it my mission to go through every single Mario Kart game in the franchise, and I kind of only half completed that mission. I'm barely even adding anything onto it today, because technically, I've already looked at Mario Kart 8 in the past, but that was the Wii U edition. We've also looked at Mario Kart Super Circuit for the Game Boy Advance, my most played Mario Kart, hilariously enough. Mario Kart Double Dash, much to the dismay of everyone who hates my opinions on that game, and Mario Kart Wii, which I think is the best in the series, but we still haven't looked at Mario Kart DS, 3DS, 64, and the one for the Super Nintendo. And to kind of springboard back into looking at the rest of those games, I figured, why don't we start with the most up-to-date, the most current, the most content-rich, and the most definitive Mario Kart, and that is, of course, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And I had been waiting for all of the booster pass courses to come out. Obviously, they're all here, but by the time the last one had released, I was kind of in the middle of a lot of other things, so I didn't really have time to jump on it immediately. But now we're doing it. We're going to be starting this year off with a whole lot of Mario Kart. This is going to actually be the longest Mario Kart series I ever do, and that's, not hard to believe because this is the biggest Mario Kart game there is, but it's going to be a bit long because we're only getting one episode a week. In fact, I can tell you right now that there will be 17 episodes. So here's how this is going to work. We're going to start by looking at every single Grand Prix Cup. We're going to do 2 cups per week just because I want to make these episodes actually worthwhile since you only get one a week. That should be 12 episodes of Grand Prix for 24 cups. Once that is done, we're going to skip over Time Trials and Versus Race because there's a lot of redundancies here that we don't need to cover after we've looked at Grand Prix. And then we're going to jump into Battle Mode. And there are 5 game modes within the Battle Mode. So I'll spend 1 episode on each of those. Those episodes will be a bit shorter than the Grand Prix episodes, but I will be sure to do like a lot of each battle game mode type so that we can look at every single battle course multiple times. Just kind of give it its full due before we call this a series. So let's just hop on in. There's not really much more to say. So I don't really think I need to explain all of the differences and all of the changes that have been made in Mario Kart. This is by far the most well-sold, best-selling Mario Kart that there has ever been. Everybody and their mother has played this one. I believe it was sitting on the top of video game best-selling charts for... Actually, I think it was last week, at least from when I'm recording this. Last week was, they said, the first time in 6 years that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was not in the top 20 bestsellers in America. So that's pretty insane. I believe this is the best-selling Switch game of all time. And this is not even an original Switch game. This is a reprise of a Wii U game, which I think was the best-selling game on that console as well. So not really a whole lot to explain here. I will say this, though. And this is a kind of a confession I have to make. 1, I have not actually played a whole lot of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. You saw that I had all of the trophies for 150cc, and I do. I've played the original 12 cups, the ones that came over from Wii U, a lot more than I have the ones, the booster courses. But I still have a lot more time played on the Wii U version than this one, because I haven't played Mario Kart much the last several years. I was on a big Mario Kart kick back in the early 2010s, particularly the Wii edition, just because I think that game is, well, first of all, it's the best, most well-supported community-run game out there, one of them. It's like a Super Smash Bros. Melee. It's just like super high skill ceiling, extremely competitive underground scene, and a lot of community support. There's hundreds to even thousands of custom-made community tracks that you can play online even to this day. It's a fantastic experience, would highly recommend it, but yeah, it is a tough game to get into now because there's this very niche underground scene that is super into it. And played it a lot back then, not so much these days because I've moved on to other things, but that's where most of my Mario Kart experience comes from. Now, because of that, like I said, I haven't played a lot of Deluxe. I played through the original courses a fair few times. With the booster courses, I really only played through those as they released. I think I've only played every cup once, except maybe, I think I played like the first 2 that came out twice, and that's about it. So not a lot of knowledge with those going into this, but hopefully I shouldn't have too much trouble. And I'm definitely going to get the win on every single course. I would like to get 3 stars on every single cup, but if I make mistakes like that, that's going to be a little bit hard to do, because to get 3 stars, you have to take first place every single time. And so let's just drift into this, and then we can call this first course done and complete. And there we go. So as far as adjustments Mario Kart made, obviously I mean, like I said, the best-selling game ever. Don't really need to say a lot about it, or one of the best-selling games ever. But just to give it the rundown, obviously, Mario Kart 8 introduced the anti-gravity mechanic. This is where you go on certain sections of the course where your wheels will flip up, and instead you'll be hovering rather than actually driving. But in this case, some special things can happen. You can run into a certain blue-tinted pieces of the track or other racers to get yourself a speed boost. However, the downside to running into other racers in that instance is you'll also give them a speed boost, so it's kind of a catch-22. You kind of want to use it as a slingshot ability so you can get some momentum. But an example of like using it on the track is like that right there. You can hit, like I said, anything that's kind of blue-tinted and spinning will allow you to get an extra little boost there. Now, because we're on 150cc, and I did not mean to lose that green shell there, we are going to be running into a lot of items. And it's not just because it's 150cc. We'll talk about that in a second. Wow, I hit myself with my own green shell. I am awesome. A lot of items are going to be thrown our way in this one, and a lot of really perfect green shell shots are going to be thrown our way because for some reason on 150cc, the CPUs are just immaculate at that. And I'm deliberately staying behind Peach until she gets rid of that before we continue on ahead. So there is a little bit of a game within a game here about trying to make sure that you have the right items on hand at all times. Of course, a lightning will immediately take that away no matter what you have. Even the super horn can't save you from that. But yeah, it's a game about, basically just trying to protect yourself and making sure that nobody can actually throw anything at you or hit you. So you always want to have bananas and shells stockpiled, and the coins will kind of get in the way. But don't think of coins as a complete loss if you ever get them, because there are actually some strategic elements to getting the item, despite what anybody says. For one, if you have two items, coins are actually good to keep in front, just in case somebody behind you uses the boo power-up, so they'll steal the coin instead of the item you have behind it. And two, coins can also be useful because, like, let's say you're about to be hit by a blue shell, you're going to lose 3 coins. Well, you can mitigate that loss a little bit if you activate the coin at the last second before the blue shell hits you, and that will actually cause you to only lose a net total of 1 coin. So that can also be kind of nice, too. You just time it just right, just as the blue shell is about to drop into you, because there is a little bit of a delay for the coin activation on the power-up, so you have time to time that, and I'll have to demonstrate that at some point. Drop that there, and then we'll just kind of put those out before we call that one. Now let's get into the one thing I don't like about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that I actually think the Wii U version does better, and it's quote-unquote a quality of life improvement, and that is the double items. I don't like the double items in this game. I wish there was an option to play it with a single items per character only. Now, I get it. Items are very integral to the Mario Kart experience. They are in every single level of competition. The competitive scene I don't even think plays without them. I'm pretty sure they actually use items, or at least online they certainly do. And it's just not one of those things where you're going to be able to convince a lot of people that items are bad. Not in this series in particular. If you want a more competitive racer, there are hundreds of other options. Mario Kart is kind of defined by its items. I get that. I understand it. But it's the excessive amount of items that kind of like ruins the experience for me a little bit, and which is why I actually prefer at least playing through these main courses on the Wii U edition, because I just feel like it's a more well-balanced, well-rounded game. But, the chaos is also supposed to be part of the fun, so it's kind of a catch-22. I don't hate it so much that I'm about to go like, yeah, this is worse than the Wii U edition. It's not, obviously. That would be a stupid thing to say. That would be a highly elitist thing to say, and I don't believe that. But I will say that is one thing that actually annoys me greatly about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. In fact, and there's a good example of the boo actually stealing my coin when I'm okay with that. In fact, it's actually, that was always one of my gripes about Mario Kart Double Dash, but it actually was more acceptable in that game, in my opinion, just because, oh man, I am just getting bombarded right now. See, this is exactly what I mean. I can't even hold on to my coins at the moment. Too many things being thrown my way. Hit you with that before you get the super horn off. There we go. Let's hold on to this red shell for protection. Let's actually try to get some coins here, because I could really use those. I do want to still get unlockables, but yeah, I don't actually have a problem with that in Double Dash. The only thing I ever had an issue with in Double Dash, and it's a very fundamental issue, is its physics engine. I don't like its physics engine. It is a very, very, like the whole game controls like it's on ice. It's just really, really awkward, and it feels bad, and it makes every single course un-ice level, and it doesn't have good game feel, in my opinion. That's the only issue I have with Double Dash. It's a very fundamental issue. It's a big problem, but it's not like I have a bazillion problems with the game. I have just one. just one, and I've made it very clear as to what that is. Deluxe does not have that issue. In fact, Deluxe, in a lot of ways, is really close to being my favorite. If Mario Kart Wii wasn't such an exceptional high skill ceiling Mario Kart game, this would be my favorite for a myriad of reasons. And one of those is the fact that this game is freaking gorgeous. I love the way it looks. The art direction in here is fantastic. Every single course we're going to race on in this series, I want to sleep there. I want to take a nap there. I want to just hang out and just enjoy myself in all these locations because, man, if there is anything Nintendo is just perfect at, it's world building. They are so freaking good at portraying locations in a way that just makes you want to be there. I mean, it's why something like the Super Mario, what was the place called? Super Mario World? Is it World or like Park or something like that? I don't know. That thing in Universal that everybody was talking about. It's why people want to go there, is because you just see all these places in these Mario games and you're just like, yes, let me go there. Take me there. And that's because they have a knack for this stuff. Their art direction is fantastic. Without really any caveats, I actually don't even have anything negative to say in that department. What I do have something negative to say about, though, in this particular game, and actually in the Wii U version as well, it applies to both, is the... Ooh, that was awkward. Is the music. I do not much care for the music in this game, actually. I know that's probably blasphemous to some, but I actually think that it's better showcased in a lot of the reprised tracks. I don't have too many issues with a lot of the original tracks, actually, because whatever. It's the style of Mario Kart 8. It's very jazzy. It's got a lot of horns in the music. That's fine. But the problem is that when they get around to reprising a lot of the tracks from a lot of the older games, many of those had their own signature style, and once they start throwing in the Mario Kart 8 style into that music, it actually homogenizes everything and makes them sound way worse. There's a few tracks we're going to go over where I think this is extra offensive on. The two that I'm thinking of the most are actually Nintendo 64 Rainbow Road and Ribbon Road, actually, from the Game Boy Advance version. We'll get into those a little bit more later on. There's some other ones as well that I'm really not a fan of what they did to the music, but it's probably my biggest aesthetic complaint about this game because, yeah, it's beautiful. It runs so smoothly. I mean, I just want to explore these courses, man. I really wish there was more to them. It takes me back, so a really positive, well, I don't know if it's positive. This is going to be bad. It's always, well, at least the lightning gave me iframes there, so actually that didn't turn out so bad at all. We'll talk about iframes in a second, but one of my fondest childhood memories, and I didn't do the trick there, was actually, should I say it's fun? Maybe it's kind of sad to some others, but when I was a kid, I had Mario Kart 64, but I did not have a Super Mario 64. And that was kind of a big deal for me because Super Mario 64 was obviously the big thing to have on the 64 back in the day. And I remember it was Royal Raceway, the course that had Peach's Castle in it. And if you went to that course in the 64 version, you could actually go to what was just about a one-to-one replica of the castle grounds from Super Mario 64. And because I didn't have Super Mario 64, I would often go into time trial and then drive over there and then just sort of drive around the castle grounds and be like, I'm kind of playing Super Mario 64. You know, the more I recount this, the sadder it sounds. But man, when you're a poor kid, you have to find so many ways to keep yourself entertained, especially when you only have a handful of games. And now that I'm an adult and I have greatly compensated for that, and I have over 10,000 games in my collection, looking back on that story makes me even sadder. So, but you know what? I mean, it's just something that I remember, and it's kind of stuck with me for all this time because I see these courses and I'm like, man, I want to be a part of this. I want to actually experience some of these a bit more. So, it actually kind of bums me out that you can't see more from each and every single one of these individual courses. But let's head back on in, and now we're going to jump into the Flower Cup. For this one, I'm going to be picking Toad. Because there is a Toad-specific course in this one. And I think for Toad, let's go with a bike this time. You know what? Let's just go standard bike. Yeah, why not? Let's do it. And we'll get more into vehicle stats in the next episode. I'll start talking about those. But for right now, what I want to talk about is some of the tips and tricks that are going to help you in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Now, first of all, as we get into bikes, this is where I want to talk about some of the quirks that this game has. Because, again, coming from Mario Kart Wii, bikes were definitively better in that game in almost every single way. In fact, they were so good that they had to nerf them in subsequent games. In this game, bikes are they're about on even playing field. They can't do wheelies anymore, which is, probably a good thing considering how overpowered that was, and I did not mean to hit that Goomba there. But they're about on the same level for the most part. There are some bikes that are really good, but the problem is that bikes do not all handle equally. There are some bikes that handle that fishtail, like this one, which honestly, when they're like this, they might as well be a cart. They handle almost exactly the same. But then you'll have other ones that will actually do weight transfer, but there's usually a bit of a delay to that to sort of offset it, and that actually usually only happens with the more low-handling bikes. So you really got to get a feel for what bike that you prefer if you want to get into these. I feel like a lot of people opt for carts for this exact reason, but something to keep in mind when you're selecting certain vehicles. Now, as for tips and tricks, so in the last level, the very last level of Mushroom Cup, you may have noticed that I got hit by lightning, and then I got hit by a blue shell, and the blue shell didn't actually do anything because you have iframes. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has a very generous set of... It's one of the few things that kind of offsets how many items are spammed your way. The iframes in this game are very generous once you've been hit by something. Usually they last longer depending on the severity of the hit. So like getting hit by a blue shell and launched in the air, that's going to give you the most iframes. But obviously something like lightning gives you quite a bit. Spinning out depends on what you get hit by. If you just get hit by a banana, it's not going to last super long. But you can actually use that to your advantage at times. So a good example is, well, like, again, there I got hit by lightning right there. When you get hit by that, and like let's say you're about to get nailed by a blue shell, if you get hit right before it, the blue shell's not going to have any effect. You can actually use bits of the course to your advantage as well. Take a lesser hit to avoid a bigger hit, if that makes sense. Because unless you have a super horn, you're going to get hit. I mean, if it's lightning, you're going to get hit no matter what, but there's no way to anticipate that. But with like a blue shell or a red shell or something along those lines, depending on the circumstances you're in, you can kind of preempt that to make the hit less bad for you, if that makes sense. So that is one strategy you can use. Like, let's say I'm about to get hit by a blue shell here. I run into the piranha plant just before it implodes on top of me, and then I just keep going on my merry way, and the blue shell doesn't really do a whole lot. You can also use blue shells to your advantage, like let's say an opponent is up really close to you. If you're in first place, they're right behind you. Slow down, let the explosion hit them as well. Try to bring them into it so that it doesn't affect your placement too much. A lot of things to think of on the fly. I'm sure I'll think of more as I continue to play and run into those circumstances. But let's get into one of my favorite. This one just makes me think of Delfino Plaza from the DS version and also Wii version. I love these little... I mean, it's also kind of Daisy Circuit, too. Just these little, like, port side courses. They're so pretty. It's so awesome. All right, let me get up here. I'm not actually 100% where I wanted to be, but whatever. You want to try to combo tricks as often as possible, obviously, because, having a boost means that you're able to maintain your top speed or get up to your top speed a lot quicker, depending on the circumstance. There are so many different scenarios where you can use tricks where you don't think you'd be able to. It isn't just boosts. It can also be, and it has to be, like, boosts with like jumps, but it can also be bumps like that. You can even use them oftentimes when you're transferring onto an anti-gravity section of the track. So as soon as you go over that blue line, do a little hop, and then your character will do another boost anyway. So all pretty good stuff. Great opportunities to take advantage of that. You just want to be using it as often as you can. Certain tracks are going to make you boost a lot, like a crap ton. So you're going to want to make sure that you string those together as efficiently and as quickly as possible, because that's going to help you a bunch. All right, let's try to carry. I'm going to actually just carry this over that bump there so I don't hit the wall again. And then I should have gone for the double there, but whatever. And I actually missed all of them entirely, so that might put me in a little bit of trouble here. You're going to have a lot of red shells thrown your way when you're in first place, so you want to make sure you've always got something on hand, and I do not at the moment, which is a bit of an issue. I don't think you can do tricks when you're using those anti-grav things to transfer up onto like a sidetrack, though. I'm pretty sure that's the one instance where they do not work. But let's use them this way, and here we go. Now I got some protection. I typically like to say on this left side here, though. I feel like it's just a lot better. You can go this way if you want to get some extra coins, if possible. It is, in some ways, actually a little bit better as well, especially because you can kind of snake into additional boosts. It's just a lot tighter of a space, obviously, so you have less space to work with, and it's not where you want to go if you're going to be throwing items at opponents, because while red shells are extremely accurate in this game, you still have to give them a little bit of space when you throw them out initially, otherwise they're going to go careening right into a wall. And obviously, if you ever see mushrooms, that's a good thing. There are many ways mushrooms can be dropped on the ground. Lightning can make characters who have them drop them. There are certain enemies and items that you can take out that will drop mushrooms if they're hit by like shells, or even if you run into them. We'll get into those as we go onto those respective tracks. For the most part, oh my goodness, was not expecting that. Actually didn't know you could hop off of those. That's actually kind of funny. I guess I don't have enough experience with these tracks as it is, but let's throw that off the wall. And there we go. Big win for that one. So far, so good. I'm not too worried on these first few cups, obviously. It's actually just the ones I don't have 3 stars on that I would really like to try and make up for that here in the future. But we'll obviously see how we do, because you're kind of also at this game's mercy. That's the thing, is like... This is why I said at the beginning of the video that I was kind of dreading this series, is Mario Kart 8, man. Of all the Mario Karts, this is the one that like makes my blood boil the most. And I know why, but it's kind of also a very silly reason. I've never played, like, Mario Kart... Well, okay, that's not true. Actually, I know which one makes my blood boil the most. That's the Super Nintendo version, but we'll get into that when we get into that. That game is just straight up evil. That is the Mario Party 1 of Mario Kart games. It is just a absolute ass kicker, and it's just mean to you. It's just mean. But this game, it's sort of more like, you can have everything under your control, you can race great, and then all of a sudden the game's just like, nope, not this time, and then it'll just throw a whole host of crap at you, particularly items, at the very end of a race, for instance. Like, that's the thing, is like, you're kind of at the mercy of when blue shells hit you, right? Well, it doesn't matter if you're coming up towards the end, and all of a sudden you get hit with a red shell, and another red shell, and then another blue shell, and then all of a sudden all that ground second place had behind you has been made up, and you just lose. And, you know, sometimes it's like, oh yeah, you can predict some of that, you can have items at the ready. Sure, certainly. But there are certain times where you're just at the mercy of what you get. I don't even get a super horn every single race, if you haven't noticed. I think I've only gotten 1 or 2 so far. And, if you don't get those enough, obviously, you're just at the mercy of a blue shell, and there's not a whole lot you can do to mitigate that, aside from, you know, what I said before, taking lesser hits from other things on the course and whatnot. But sometimes in certain courses, you don't even have that luxury. There are certain courses that straight up do not have course obstacles. So that's not going to do you any good. You can, like, try to drive into the waters. In fact, here comes a blue shell right now, and I'm going to be at that thing's mercy. So I'm going to just have to take this hit. So let's just try to get as much ground as we can, but Roy is right on my tail. So I'll just head around here. And what I can show with the coin here is that as this thing is about to hit me, wait for it, now use the coin. And so you notice that I was able to lose 3 but get 2 back right away by doing that. So, how did he... Took my banana. Banana hit the back of my banana. That was a total dick move. Oh, and here comes Waluigi. So this is the other thing I don't like about 150cc opponents in this game. They are gods when it comes to drafting behind you. And drafting in this game is a lot harder than it is in, like, Mario Kart Wii, for instance. But, I mean, I think it's because the actual box you need to be behind is a lot more narrow this time around. But they are so freaking good at it in this game. And a lot of times, if they're right behind you, they will pass you because of it. So that's another thing. But yeah, it's something about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that always gets under my skin. Is just like, I could be doing perfectly, I can be having a great race, and the items just don't fall my way, and then I just lose because of it. So that's a thing. But all right, Shy Guy Falls time. And I love the idea that the Shy Guys are just the frickin' the dwarves from Snow White. That's kind of awesome. Just out here mining, out here singing hi-ho. But here we go, hi-ho. All right, Roy. So I'm not going to obviously be able to play as every... Dude, quit. He's like right in front of me. He was like, what? That's the other thing. They are like... The AI can sometimes just be perfect at knowing exactly where to be, and it's really hard to fake them out at times. But... So the other thing is, I'm not going to obviously be able to play as every single character in the game. There are just too many to play as and not enough cups and battle courses to go around. But I'm going to try to use all of the most notable ones. I'm going to mostly skip all of the Koopalings just because, you know, they are kind of all interchangeable. Oh gosh, why did I slide like that? That was weird. So like, I'm going to use like pretty much everybody on the top row. I'm going to be using like all of the, you know, the very individualistic characters. I'm probably not going to use a me in this. And then can I... Oh, I did that too early. Gosh, dang it. Okay, Super Horn, when it comes to red shells, they do work, but you need to... you definitely want to look behind you when you're about to use them. That's what I get for making that guess there. Right, let's see if I can't gain some ground here. There we go. And now use all these boost pads, and we're going to want to kind of alternate them as we make our way up this. I missed actually quite a few there, but we still have a pretty good lead. And that is actually a very easy spot to hit a purple spark on, so I missed that opportunity, but none of it would have mattered anyway because I instantly got hit by a lightning. All right, well, we're not getting up to the top section of the course. I'll try to do that on the next turn, but it's a little hard to do that on low top speed characters like Toad, so we'll see how that works out, but getting hit by a lot of things too. Okay, bloopers. Let's talk about bloopers for a second. So these aren't too much of an issue for me. I mean, I don't know about you. I never really have an issue with those whenever they hit me. However, there are some ways to mitigate them. If you do get hit by an ink, if you go over a boost pad, and this has been a thing since they were introduced in the Wii edition, but if you go over boost when a blooper hits you, it'll just wipe the ink right off. There are also certain instances where water will do the same thing. I believe it's course specific, but I've definitely seen it happen a few times. You can also, if you happen to have a PD Piranha item pickup, which I probably won't get a lot in this playthrough. And here comes another blue shell. Okay, let's see. Can I at least get up here before it hits me? Yes. Okay, and then hit with the coin. Oh, that is an ugly place to get stuck at. All right, here we go. We're fine. Okay, I got to make up some ground here. Keep that green shell on hand just in case. Gosh, these blue shells, man. Third lappers, and also that is a bad drift. Come on, come on, come on. There we go. We got it. Okay, we're good. Whew! Holy crap, that was scary. Anyways, PD Piranha, yeah, so if a blooper comes up and it's directly in front of you about to drop ink on you, the PD Piranha, if you actually hit the button, will eat the blooper and actually stop it from inking you, which is another little cool secret. Speaking of PD Piranhas, you can actually spam those like you can golden mushrooms just by hitting the item button over and over again. A lot of people don't know that. They think that it just boosts you intermittently and eats people. No, you can use that thing like a golden mushroom. So it's actually a really, really good power-up to have, and it actually appears more frequently in the middle placements than something like a golden mushroom does, which only appears when you're towards the bottom of the pack. So not bad at all. I think that's going to be it for this first episode of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Guys, thank you all so very much for watching, and next time we're going to be heading off into the Star and Special Cup, finishing the basic vanilla cups, and then we will start moving on into the retro cups. I will see you all in the next one.